Hey everyone, Scott from Concentric. I'm here with Karthik Krishnan, our CEO, and we're going to chat today about remote work, something we're all dealing with right now, and some of the implications for IT. So Karthik, tell me a bit about how things are going for you. What is the remote work experience been like in the Karthik household?
It's definitely been interesting. Work from home is not new, but what's definitely new is that it's become the default and the only mode of operation. And so, compared to a lot of face-to-face meetings, it's a lot of Zoom and a lot of Teams. And so, everything is happening virtually. So, and plus, with the professional and personal lives completely blended into one mix. And so, that's definitely been an interesting challenge.
Yeah, it certainly has. So when you think about the IT professionals who are trying to support this, just give me some insight into the things that they're doing right now, how they're progressing in terms of filling out the technology portfolio.
Oh, I think IT administrators have a critical role to play. I think they are, in my mind, they've been largely responsible for the economy even functioning the way it is. Just the fact that people are all, at least at home, big sections of our society are continuing to work and continuing to contribute. And given that we should expect that this is going to be the new norm for the next 12, 18, 24 months, they're going to be the cornerstone of this economic recovery in whatever shape it takes. And so the resilience of the economy is going to be hugely dependent on IT teams and what they're actually doing and continue to do.
Yeah, I think that's true. The IT community is going to be pretty instrumental in giving us a really resilient economy. So when we think about I've read some of the press, and we're trying to keep up with the dynamic that's happening right now. And there's a lot of talk about the threat surface really expanding. Can you give us some color on why the threat surface is actually expanding and the specifics behind what's going on?
Yeah, so there's three dynamics at play here, right? One, just the economic uncertainty, and so the downturn that we're facing, the stress that probably a lot of employees are under, and so that's usually a fairly ripe environment for insider activity, and so insider threats is a critical problem. The other areas are just the health crisis, the need for people to want more information is also causing, is getting the attention of cyber criminals where they're using COVID as bait to essentially be able to spearfish a lot of employees. So the combination of the health situation, the anxiety around that, the need for more information, and the fact that cyber criminals are aware now that people are all working from home is also leading to the potential for compromised users being a much larger problem than even prior.
So as the IT community attacks those problems and addresses that expanded threat surface, what are kind of the phases of technology enablement that we're starting to see from the IT community?
Yeah, in a lot of our conversations, the first step was just enabling remote connectivity, getting people to essentially be able to access all of their corporate resources from home, and ensuring that they have a business continuity disaster recovery plan to be able to support these sorts of events. I think we're largely past that point, at least that's what indications seem to be. And so now people are moving to thinking about the various phases of security. And that starts with getting your traditional endpoint network security, the infrastructure security that you need to make sure that you're able to mitigate against some of these threats like spear phishing and so on. And as we are essentially moving out of that phase, and once implementations of those projects happen, phase 3 is now risk monitoring, risk remediation, and that largely is focused on your data, because eventually these things are not called endpoint breaches or network breaches, they're called data breaches. And so the target is always your high value assets, the information that you value and that the cyber criminals know is of value to them as well. And so you'll quickly see the phase move to eventually data protection.
Yeah, so clearly data security and data protection is a pretty cornerstone capability, regardless of whether we're working remotely or not. What are the things that you think about when talking about data security? What do you need to do actually to have proper data security in your organization?
Data security is predicated on the three key pillars. It's about being able to discover and inventory all of the assets that matter to you. And once you've figured that out, to be able to put an effective risk monitoring program around the information that you care about, and then eventually to be able to protect it. And that often involves getting a good idea of all the things that matter to you: your business confidential data, your financial information, your PII, PCI data, your IP data like source code and patents and so on.
So security teams confront that reality of an increased threat surface when it comes to their data. What does Concentric have to offer to help mitigate those risks?
So we do two things for customers. Concentric helps customers inventory all of their high value assets, all the data that they didn't even know they had in the repositories. And we do that without the customers having to write any rules and do any heavy configuration up front. We use a deep learning platform that develops a semantic level understanding of the content to give customers a thematic, category-oriented view into all the data. And once we have done that, and once we've enabled customers to identify the data that matters to them, we're able to also autonomously figure out risk against that data. For example, the data that may have been riskily shared inside the company, outside the company, or the important data that may have inappropriate access permissions where people who have access to it people who should not have access to it have access to it. And then we can not only identify that, but we can help remediate and protect that. And so that brings down the risk surface dramatically against the data that really, really matters, which makes it much harder for a cyber criminal to get access to the data. It makes it much harder also for an insider to essentially be able to steal the data that's of most important value to you.
Well, great. Hey, thanks, Karthik. I really appreciate your time this afternoon. On behalf of Concentric and the entire team, I thought I'd also give a quick shout out to everybody in the IT community who's working so hard to keep us all productive and working as effectively as possible from home. Karthik, I do hope that you and I are going to be face-to-face soon. Miss our chances to be together in the office, but again, I wanted to thank you for your time.
That sounds good, Scott. Look forward to that. Stay safe, and thanks for having me.